So we last left off by adding numbers that had the same sign, right? So if I have something like this, I'm going to kind of organize this a little better for you. If I have -8 plus -5, please understand that we are not solving anything yet. We will solve things later. Right now we are simplifying. What we have here is an expression. Both of these numbers are negative, right?
Right.
So we're trying to add negatives. We are combining, think about this, we are combining numbers that have the same sign. So when you combine numbers with the same sign, you end up keeping that same sign. So both these guys are negative. Your answer will be negative. So how much negative do you have here? You have -13. Find something that makes sense to you. If you lose 8 pounds and then you lose 5 pounds, what have you done? You've lost 13 pounds, right? If I spend $8 and then I spend $5, I've spent $13. Much the same way I could take, 13 plus 28. When I look at these numbers, I should be able to identify the type of signs that I have here. Okay? If you need to make little notes, you can do that. When there's nothing written in front of this guy, we understand this is a positive 13. Yes? And when I look at this guy, this is plus 28. You may see this as the operator addition, which it is, but also see it for what it is. That's just a positive 28. So if I have a positive 13 and a positive 28, and you think about this on the number line, you're going to still end up in the positives, right? Positive what? It's going to be a positive 41. And again, if you're not sure about some things, maybe on the top of a test or an assessment, you draw a quick little number line to give yourself an idea about where you are. So for this guy, if I'm over here at, say, 13, here's positive 13. And then I want to add 28 to that. Well, if I'm going to add, that means I'm going to the right, so I'm going over here 28 spots, right? And if I go from 13 to plus 28, where do I end up?
41.
I end up at 41, right? If I were to look at this first problem with the negatives, if I'm over here at -8, and I want to add a -5 to that, well, which way do I move when I'm talking about negatives? I'm going to be moving back to the left, so that means I'm going to go over here 5 spots. So -5, and I end up where? Even further to the left, an even larger looking negative number, so that's -13. Are you guys with me on that? All right. Well, what if we don't have the same sign? What if we're trying to add numbers that have different signs? And this is going to go back to our discussion of absolute value. Okay? If I were to have -9 and a +5, I'm just putting parentheses around these to emphasize the signs and the types of numbers that we have here. These guys have opposite signs, right? One is negative and one is positive. Which one of these is stronger in terms of the absolute value? The -9, because in terms of the absolute value, 9 is bigger than 5, right? So I'm going to make a little note here. I'm going to say this guy is my stronger number, so to speak. And since he's the stronger number, I keep the sign of that stronger number. Now, we've talked about this in terms of a bank account. If you lose $9 but you put in $5, what is the overall net change that has happened? The change is of $4, but it's a negative $4, right? Think about it right now. We have, is everybody, I don't know if everybody's here. Suppose we have 20 students right now, right? If we were to lose 9 students, if 9 of you left and then 5 of you came back in, what would be the overall change from where we started? We would be down 4 students. If 9 of you left and only 5 came back, I'd be going, we're missing 4 students, right? All right. So what if I have this? If I have positive 11, and I'm adding to this negative 5. So who's the stronger number in this problem? The positive number is the stronger number, right? So I know my answer is going to be positive. I don't necessarily have to put a positive here, but I can if it makes you feel better. Now, what's the difference between 11 and negative 5? Well, the difference between those absolute values is 6, right? Think about it this way. If 11 people come into this classroom right now, just all of a sudden 11 strangers come into this classroom, and then 5 people leave, what has our class done? Our class size has increased by 6, right? If I were to, Augustus, if I gave you $11 and I took back $5, give you 11 and then I take back 5, what have you done? What's happened to you? No, overall, like right now, suppose you don't have any money. If I give you 11 and then I take away 5, you've come out 6 on the positive side, right? If I were to look at this on a number line, okay? And so suppose we have 0 right here. If I'm over here at positive 11, this is where I'm starting, because that's the number that I have here, and then I have a negative 5, which way does that go? Negative 5 is going to the left. Now, if I go to the left 5 spaces, am I going to be on the right side of 0 or the left side of 0? I'm still going to be on the right side, right? So I'm going back 5, and I end up at the number positive 6. You guys agree with me on that? Look back at the one that we had just above this. Let me kind of do this over here on the side. Here's 0, and if I start over here at negative 9, I'm adding 5 to this. Well, if I add 5, where do I end up? Don't I still end up on the left side? I haven't gone far enough to overcome the negative. So we end up right here with the negative 4. You guys with me on that? Okay. Let's do a couple more problems just to make sure that everybody is buying into this. If I do this, if I have 23 plus negative 37. Who's my stronger number? 37. The 37 has the larger absolute value, and since it's negative, I know I'm going to end up with what kind of sign? Negative. Now, you just have to figure out how much negative do I have left? Because I've got a positive here and a negative. I've got to find what's the difference between those. So that's a subtraction problem for you. How far apart would 37 and 23 be? 14. Now, here's something I need you guys to understand. When you are doing subtraction, it's always the larger number in terms of the absolute value. It's always the larger number minus the smaller number. Otherwise, your subtraction won't work out right. So when I do this, 7 minus 3 is 4, and 3 minus 2 is 1. So I end up here at negative 14. Do y'all agree with that? You know, maybe the number line is not the best representation for you. Maybe if I did it vertically, maybe that would help you out. Okay, suppose I have 0 right here. We're trying to figure out, it's always about the net change. If you are up here at 23, that's a positive 23, right? Are you guys okay with up being positive and down being negative? Mm-hmm. Yep. You see that in terms of temperature, you see that in terms of sea level and elevation. How many units is it from 23 to 0? It's 23, but I need to go 37 units down, right? So I'm going to be going down beyond this, right? So I'm going down 37, and I end up down here at negative 14. Think about your bank account. If you were to see the ledger that you have for your bank account, and you see that you've put in $23, but you then have a check that you wrote for $37, right? Overall, and you have a real-world grasp of what's going on. In a real-world sense, with these two transactions, has that increased your bank account or decreased it overall? It's decreased it because you took out more money than you put in. Can you make that connection? I don't want to ask you guys to bring in your checking account statements. Some of you may not even have a checking account statement. I don't want to bring mine in. Anyway, so we're okay with this, yes? Now let's see if we can make things a little bit more challenging.